Hey folks, this is Matt once again, and welcome back to another review. And this is another wrestling review. Don't worry, I got only a couple more left. I want to review the CM Punk Blu-ray that I received sometime down the road, and also review this one, The Rise and Fall of ECW. Now, ECW, which was Eastern Championship Wrestling, became Extreme Championship Wrestling under the direction of Paul Heyman, who now manages Brock Lesnar. ECW, I didn't grow up with, but I've seen quite a few stuff. Good guys sent me a videotape. Unfortunately, it didn't work the most. About halfway through, it lost the tracking. Yeah, it's a VHS. That happens. But the stuff I saw, I liked. There's matches on here, and there's stuff on YouTube that I watched and I enjoy. ECW had a lot of it was wrestling where it pushed the envelope. It pushed envelope in violence, blood, sex, first hint of lesbianism dealing with wrestling, barbed wire. But you also have really good wrestling. For example, the cruiserweights, people like Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko and Chris Jericho and so on and so forth. Rey Mysterio, the Dudley Boys. You had a lot of different people and different things going on with this organization. And when you're watching this, you realize that WWF and WCW, even if they don't want to admit it, they took a lot from ECW. Because it was the small fish in the pond. It was in the Hammerstein Ballroom in Philadelphia. This little organization that built this cult following, this cult uh, base of fans. And to this day, you hear people go ECW, ECW. In fact, this is still felt today. Just think about it. How many times recently have you seen wrestling where people chant same old shit, or they chant shit like what's another one? All these different chants. You first were seeing that in ECW. You fucked up, or something like that. ECW, I think, is still, even though what was it, 2001? It went out of business, but it still felt today. And it was a little organization. And they brought it back for like little bits of one night stands in 2005 and 2006. But it still felt today. I mean, before I get into that, this is a great DVD. The reason for that is the first disc. The documentary is 2 hours and 50 minutes. So it's a very in-depth documentary. Very interesting. Never got bored for a second. And then disc 2 has, to say specifically, has quite a few matches. The Pitbulls versus Raven and Stevie Richards in a 2 out of 3 falls. Dog collar match. Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Psychosis in 2 out of 3 falls. Mighty Whipwreck versus the Sandman in a ladder match, which had an appearance of Steve Austin. Too Cold Scorpio versus Sabu. Tommy Dreamer versus Raven. Tazz versus Bam Bam Bigelow. Rob Van Dam versus Jerry Lynn. Stevie, and then you have little extra stuff like Steven Richards apologizes for leaving ECW. Tazz seeking Paul Heyman's blessing. Chris Jericho talking about Paul Heyman acting as a travel agent, what he did. There's just a lot of stuff. As you can see, there's a lot of chapters to this story about how it was, like I said, it was Eastern Championship Wrestling. Paul Heyman had gone through some bad shit in WCW, had gotten fired, went there, wanted to change stuff, said, hey, are you open to me playing around with this? And they're like, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to bring this group called Public Enemy, and they're going to deal with rap and deal with today's age. Because that was the thing about ECW, that even its tagline is join the revolution, that it wanted to be different. Because at that time, yeah, remember, this was 93 or something when it first started. I mean, really started going. WWF was having stuff like Mantar, Damien Demento, Max Moon, Bastion Booker, Duke the Dumpster, the Gobbledygooker, the Goon, which was just a guy who wore fucking hockey stuff. Like, if you don't know, I guess stop saying like. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look those up on YouTube. Max Moon, Damien Demento, Mantar, a guy with a fucking bison's head or whatever coming to the ring. Damien Demento was like, he had stupid bones and stuff. Max Moon, that looks like a starburst blew up in his face and blew him all over the screen. Gobbledygooker, which was a Thanksgiving thing, someone dressed up in a turkey that came out of an egg. This is what WWF was back in the day. WCW, not too far removed from what WWF was doing. WCW, you had RoboCop returning to save Steam. You had stuff like Oz. Don't know who that is, look it up. Or them attempting stuff like the Shockmaster. Again, if you don't know what I mean, look it up on YouTube. You'll know what I mean. Goofy cartoon shit. And so, hey, let's have where it goes the opposite. That's not goofy cartoon stuff. That's more real. That's more extreme. People using maybe their real names or... And like I said, being felt today, I honestly believe without ECW, you would not have the Attitude Era. If without ECW, I really don't think you would have had the NWO and WCW. What was WCW? The NWO. Them being more real, using their names, having fights in the backlot, having fights behind the scenes, a little bit more violent. A little WCW getting the cruiserweights. Where do you think they got it from? ECW. Where do you think they got Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Dean Malenko? Yes, Chris Benoit. They got him from ECW. And then even Steve Austin. He was fired from WCW. He was pissed off. Paul Heyman called him, hey, what are you doing? Well, I got fired. Got fucking fired. Hey, Steve, why don't you come in and talk? Talk about what? Well, talk about anything. Talk about how you're pissed off. I should do that? Yeah, you can do that. Well, shit, son, okay. Comes in, talks about how pissed off he is, gave some really great promos. Same with Mick Foley. Mick Foley comes in as Cactus Jack. He was in WCW. He comes to ECW. And that got him to WWF. And then Steve Austin went to WWF. Did the Ringmaster, which sucked. But then he did Stone Cold Steve Austin. But that spark was in ECW. Hell, him with the beer, Stone Cold. You can't tell me that he didn't take a little influence from the Sandman. The Sandman was a guy that wasn't much of a wrestler, but he came out. And you have to find the unedited version, because from what I understand on the network, which I don't watch the fucking WWE network, fuck that, they edit the songs. They don't have the real songs, because the Sandman came out to Enter Sandman by Metallica. And he had like a cane, and he smoked a cigarette. This woman, who I think one of the women called Woman was actually, I believe, Nancy Benoit, who of course unfortunately passed away because of that murder-suicide from Chris Benoit. So it's sad to look at that way. They don't talk about that. In fact, I'm not sure. I think this was before that, actually. This is 2004, so this is before that happened. Because I think I'm jumping over the place. I know. But the Sandman, he would come out and he would drink beer and he would get the shit kicked out of him, but he wouldn't feel anything. He wasn't a... Like, Stone Cold Steve Austin didn't rip the character off. They're two different characters. I'm just talking about the drinking beer thing. But, yeah, a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, also had people like Tommy Dreamer and Raven. You had the Dudley Boys, the stuff with the tables. You think they were doing a lot with tables and chairs in WWF, let alone WCW? No. They were doing a lot in this. The Dudleys, get the tables! And they had flaming tables and barbed wire tables. And you had so much crazy shit. going on in this. It was really interesting story, as well as just seeing all the clips of, like, this one clip. I'm not sure where it's from, but this one clip in ECW where you had like 100 chairs being thrown into the ring. um, you just had a lot of different people. Of course, the Terry Funk, a lot of different stuff. And before I get more into the documentary, the thing about this is, I think the reason they did that one night stand WWF did in 2005, 2006, they did one night stand I think each year. When this came out, this became, I think, the highest grossing DVD, the best selling DVD that WWF ever had. I would like to know what that is today. Their highest best selling DVD of WWF. I would like to know what that is. Was the DVD or Blu-ray that sold the most? Because for a good long time, it was this. That's how popular not only this DVD became, but that's how popular ECW was. Now, mainstream, no. But for that select group of people, and even me, I didn't grow up watching this, but I was interested in. And yeah, it's violent, but a nice guy sent me these videotapes of Japan stuff. That Japan stuff is too far even for me. That's where it got me a little bit uneasy and queasy. I mean, they have a fucking ring where there's mines and explosions and shit. That's too far for me. Like, this is extreme, but it's far enough for me. Like, this is the most I'll go. The Japan stuff, too far for me. Yeah, before I understand, this is the best. This was the best-selling DVD for the longest time. Again, you cannot tell me that the Attitude Era, because back then, from Damien Demento and Max Moon and Bastion Booger, a fat guy who you saw most of his skin eating shit, and Max Moon, who I swear shot like Nerf. I swear he had like a Nerf gun and shooting shit. I can't remember. Or even Doink the Clown, and you had this stuff going. It's just one of those things. It's like, then you have DX suck it. You got Stone Cold Steve Austin flipping the bird. You got, it's just the Monday Night Wars between WWF and WCW. How do we win this war? Hey, let's look at this little organization that's getting a little fan base, and let's take a little from this, and this group's going to take a little from this, and take a little from this. So this deserves a lot of credit for those two companies, even if they don't want to admit it. Because other people, it's plainly obvious. Because you look at WWF and WCW at that time that this first came into play, and then look what those two companies later became. NWO, more real, baseball bats and shit. You know, WWF, you know, the Attitude Era. You know, Gold Dust and stuff like that. But anyway, getting into it a little bit more. You also have people like Tazz, Sabu. Yeah, the moment where Shane Douglas had won the NWA title. Is, you know, they all can kiss my ass. I don't want to have a torch passed to me. I'm going to be the first. I'm going to be a first. So, the NWA, no. I am the champion of ECW. Sorcerer starting off fresh. And you had the violent stuff, chairs and tables, but you also had the great technical wrestlers and cruiserweights. So you had your good wrestling, but you also had your crazy violent shit as well. And it goes through how there's a moment where Tazz broke his neck. There was a moment where it was the Sandman versus Tommy Dreamer, and the loser had to get caned, and then Tommy Dreamer is taking all these canes to the back, all these canings to the back, and it's welting and shit. A storyline where the Sandman got blinded, and in order to make it more real, he didn't really get blinded, but to make the audience believe it, okay, you don't stay at home for a month. You're not even going to answer the door. So people will believe that, that's really happened. You had the BWO, which was a spoof on the NWO. I mean, you had this big guy who pretended to be Razor Ramon, and I thought that was pretty funny. Uh, Mighty Whipwreck, which was this young kid, which he would never fight back. He would always get his butt kicked, and people started rooting for him. And there's this fun interview where Mick Foley is like, "Do you know what this means?" And Mighty's like, "It means I'm gonna die." And then Mick is like, "Mighty likes it. He really likes it." A moment where Raven thought of this idea to crucify the Sandman, and Kurt Angle was there, and Kurt Angle was going to wrestle, but when he saw that, he was so aghast. He told Paul Heyman, "Just give me my check. Don't even put me on here. I'm done. I'm leaving." Them fighting to get their first pay-per-view, and at one time they were going to get a pay-per-view, but then something about they were going to have this tag team match. One of the wrestlers couldn't make it, so they had this other guy. But this other guy lied about his age and falsified documents, so he was really not 18 or over. He was younger than that. And the guy got hurt because it's a match. And there were lawsuits going on, and then they canceled the first pay-per-view, but then they did get their first pay-per-view. There was another time where there was rumors that there was a mole in the organization. And this is real stuff. This is not storyline. The stuff I'm talking about is real stuff. Another one where they think there's a mole, and oh my god, they're going to get these guys and bring them to WCW, and this guy needs to be fired. People leaving the company, Sabu quitting and going to Japan, Raven saying fuck this and going to WCW. The fact that a lot of the wrestlers had to do more than one job, like not only did they wrestle, but it was such a small organization. I think like one of the Dudleys was doing, what was it? I think one of them was doing, like, of the wrestlers, one of them was doing the designs of the t-shirts. One of them was sending out packages in the mail that people bought, merchandise. One was calling the cities to see, hey, can we play in your town? Can we play in your town? Can we be in your town? So everyone was pitching in. All the stuff with the financial woes, money problems, people didn't bounce checks, people not getting paid that much but still sticking around because either they had nowhere else to go, or because it was a time in their lives that, wow, this is a crazy moment. Let's see where this goes. Tazz making a title for himself called FTW, aka Fuck the World. That's what I meant. Tazz having a title that's a Fuck the World title. Rob Van Dam, the whole effing show, him being in there. Getting a deal with TNN. Oh, we finally got a cable deal. But TNN treated him like shit because, well, on one hand, it's because Paul Heyman didn't want to change. He didn't want to be more mainstream. He's like, no, I gotta keep the product like it is. But on the flip side, it's like, just they're saying, like, on one hand, I understand he wants to keep ECW the way it is. That's how people like. That's what people like. That's why people liked it, because it was not changing and having to lower it down and such. On the flip side, you're now on a mainstream. I mean, even though it's TNN, you're still on a mainstream cable company. Of course, because of advertisers, things like that, they don't want you pushing it that much, so they want Paul Heyman to change, but Paul Heyman wouldn't change, so then the network and him are pretty much like this. And Paul Heyman, we can't leave because we'd be in breach of contract, so we gotta wait for them. But they're not putting any advertisement. They're not putting anything like this. Pretty much, they don't like us. We don't like you. We're pretty much bleeding to death on this cable organization. We wish you would just throw us off now, but you're not doing that. And then later down the road, oh, we couldn't get pay-per-view money that we were owed, because the pay-per-view guys are like, well, we won't pay you because we're pretty sure you don't want to fizzle out anyway. And it'll be cheaper just to pay you that way instead of paying you all the money from the pay-per-view you guys earned. And Paul Heyman says they could not get another. A lot of other people say that Paul Heyman, he's great thinker, he's great at a lot of stuff, he's just really bad at business. And from the stories you hear, it seems like he's very bad with business and money. Now Paul Heyman says if we had gone on another network, because TNT, they said we don't want to be in wrestling anymore because of the Time Warner merger, and Time Warner and such were pretty much in the position we don't want to be in the wrestling business anymore. So that's why WCW kind of went out of business. Granted, the last year or two wasn't great, but Time Warner and this merger says we don't want to do wrestling anymore. Fuck this. Then WCW was able to be bought by WWF. So TNT didn't want to do it. And if TNT didn't want to do it, TBS isn't going to do it because they're Turner, TNT and TBS. USA didn't do it because if we can't get WWF, why should we get the second one? We want the number one, WWF, or nothing at all. Fox, they said maybe we'll do it, but it's going to have to be pretty earlier than usual, and that wasn't going to work because of the content. And I think something about if it's on earlier, then it just, I don't know, it wouldn't make as much. I don't know the whole deal with that. Pretty much they couldn't get on another network, and they were bled dry. And they wanted Paul Heyman to put more money into production, but at the same time, the company wouldn't, TNN wouldn't promote them, wouldn't advertise them. So they kind of bled to death. Which, to be honest, is something that was going to happen regardless. Like with Paul Heyman, honestly, it would not have mattered if he had gone on another network. The guy will probably disagree with that, but I don't care if he had gone on USA, TNT, Fox. They still would have told you to tone this down. I mean, hell, like I said, there was a lesbian angle. Not tits and stuff, but I mean, there was a lesbian angle. I don't care what network you're on, unless you're on fucking HBO or Showtime. You're not going. They're going to tell you to tone this down, or you're still going to have trouble, and you're still going to bleed out. Granted, I prefer this, but mainstream is mainstream, and mainstream, look at, hell, I would only say look at a lot of stuff that mainstream enjoy, but that's, that'd be mean to say. But yeah, the stuff they were doing in ECW, unfortunately, it wouldn't fly in a mainstream organization, which is sad, but it's true. My thought is, I know at one point later on, they don't mention this, but they were thinking of strictly an internet-based, where they would do a show, but then if you want to watch it instead of cable and network, it would be internet streaming. But then I think they got, I'm talking about later, that's not in here, 2005, 2006, they got a network, and then it didn't work out, or they neutered it. I think 2005 wasn't neutered, but the 2006 one was neutered, and it was a shallow what ECW used to be. And that's where Paul Heyman was really pissed off and left, and they told each other to go fuck themselves because you're neutering ECW a lot, you're changing it a lot. I mean, I think he had the fucking Big Show as an ECW champion, beating an ECW guy. I mean, even this, though, you want to help out ECW, but you have Tazz lose to Triple H. When Tazz is the ECW, wasn't he like the, he was like he was the champion or something, and Triple H beats him. And even Tommy Dreamer comes in to help, and still Tazz gets beaten by Triple H. Yeah, you're really helping ECW. You're pretty much going, hey, we're better than you. That's what it seems like. Diamond Dallas Page got treated like shit when he went to WWF. Booker T, I don't know, maybe he was hard to deal with. Maybe that's the case. All I know is he got beat by Triple H at WrestleMania, and that pretty much killed any momentum he had going. Tazz really didn't get to do much at WCW. I mean, WWF, except become get on the commentary. That's pretty much what he went on for the longest time, be on commentary. I don't know. Maybe I'm being unfair, but sometimes it seems like WWF, fuck ECW, fuck WCW, we're the best. You know, once in a while, it seems as if that's how they react. Maybe it's just me. But I'm not going to go into every detail on what's on this documentary because I want people to check it out for themselves. It's 2 hours and 50 minutes long. It's a very interesting documentary. It's worth the purchase alone for that. But then on disc 2, you do get quite a few matches. Like I said, you get 7 matches. And some other little extra stuff. ECW, it was a success, even though it got, how you put it, it got shut down. It was still a success because, in a way, ECW, from the beginning, wanted to change the business, wanted to change the industry of wrestling, have an influence, and it did. I still maintain without ECW, you would not have had the Attitude Era. You would not have had stuff like the NWO. That's because WCW would not have thought of the cruiserweights and you had people like Chris Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Rey Mysterio. Without ECW, Steve Austin. If it wasn't for that, he probably would have been in WCW, maybe John Crawl from WWF, be the ringmaster, and that's it. But no, he got his first taste in ECW to speak his mind and show that anger and thoughts that probably got some creative juices going. So when he was in WWF, fuck this. I'm the ringmaster, fuck this. Now, Steve Austin isn't interviewed, but I've seen other stuff. For example, on his DVD, his other DVDs and the podcast, he talks good things about ECW. He doesn't put down ECW. Like, he gives it the respect it deserves, which is very cool. And you have quite a few people talking about it. You have Tazz, you have Paul Heyman, you have Chris Jericho, you have the Dudleys, you have Rey Mysterio, you have quite a few people, Tommy Dreamer, Rob Van Dam. You have quite a few people talking about their time in ECW as well. Just a lot of crazy stuff, a lot of interesting stuff going on screen during the organization, as well as a lot of interesting backstory as well. So I can't recommend this enough. To me, this is one of the best DVDs out there for wrestling. If you're at all a wrestling fan at all, even if you just like interesting stories, this is well worth the look. Because it's been a while since I've seen this. When I popped in the DVD, I'm like, holy shit, the documentary's 2 hours and 50 minutes? I forgot all about that. But it was a pleasure to watch again. So that's my thoughts on the Rise and Fall of ECW DVD. It's definitely worth a look for anyone who's interested. Thanks for watching. Take care. And we'll see you later. Bye-bye.